Hey guys, it's Saria. Welcome back to my channel and another ear tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how I made these pearl Mickey ears, very inspired by Steamboat Willie. However, the bow is actually removable, so I am going to be showing you guys just how to make them plain and make a removable bow using a magnet. So if you're interested, then just keep watching. For the ear itself, I'm going to be using these clear acrylic discs. They are a 4-inch diameter and they come in, I believe, a pack of 15, but I will have them linked down below for you guys. You'll need to peel off the film that's on top of them, and then I'm taking the ear tracing template, or I'm using the foam and batting template. That's the smallest template that I've linked down below for you guys in the adult sizes. And I'm using that to create the curve on the disc that I'm going to need in order to attach this to the headband. So I'm just laying it down, tracing it using an Sharpie, and then using a wood burning tool, but using the it's like an X-Acto blade, like end or tip. I'm going to add that and then obviously put it on full heat. And then that acts as essentially a hot knife, and it's going to melt its way through the plastic in order to create the curve in the disc. Once both of those were cut out, I went to applying the pearls. Now this is a little time consuming, but honestly it's very easy and satisfying. So using E6000, I'm just going to work in small sections and applying a little bit of glue, and then using this little pickup tool that I have from my Silhouette machine, I'm going to just start applying the pearls in a random sequence. So I am using 3 different sizes of pearls. There's a little pearl container next to me, but I did end up having to purchase more pearls in order to finish these. So I'm going to link the bigger pack that I ended up getting because I did like them a little bit better. But yeah, literally just picking up the pearls and laying them down. The one thing that I would suggest is kind of keeping track of where the biggest ones end up, because those are the ones that kind of stand out the most. So just making sure that if you're going to do the mixture of sizes, that you are conscious of it and are making sure to really make it random. Once I had most of the top cover, I switched to this pointed, almost like a pencil point extension on my heat tool, because that's how I'm going to be feeding ribbon through in order to secure these on the headband. So I just marked 3 little dots and I'm just pushing this tool through. Once it's all heated up, it literally just melts a little perfect hole into your ears. And you just want to make sure that you don't get too close to the edge, because obviously you don't want to burn through and create like a gap. You want a little circle hole, just like these. After I had those holes poked through, I'm just going to continue adding my pearls until this ear is all covered, and then I'll do the same thing to create the second ear. For the bow for these ears, I actually had this pre-made velvet black bow, and I'm just going to be ripping off the little alligator clip on the back, as well as kind of pulling out the bottom portion of the bow, because I didn't want it to have the little 2 parts that hang down. And this saved me a ton of time. I do have lots of tutorials showing you guys how to make a custom bow. If you need it, I'll link some down below, including a tutorial that's just all about making bows. But to add a little bit of detail to this and cover up the glue on the back from where I took off the alligator clip, I'm going to be taking this ribbon that I had on hand that just has like music notes and stuff like that, and I literally just shoved it through the middle of this bow, wrapped it around, and then glued it in place. So very simple, but I love the little Steamboat Willie detail that it added to it. And speaking of Steamboat Willie details, I do have these buttons that I painted. So they actually were black and white with the exception of Mickey's shorts, Minnie's skirt, and Minnie's hat. So I just popped these pieces off of the buttons and painted them gray. I'm sorry I didn't film that part. I didn't even think about it. And after I painted them gray, perfect, they were Steamboat Willie. So I'm going to be setting these off to the side because I will be adding these as embellishments later. The next step is to attach the ears to the headband itself. I'm going to be using this white headband. I do have linked down below for you guys the headbands that I prefer to use for ears, the ones that don't give me headaches personally. And then I'll also be using this ear spacing template just to make sure I get the spacing right. I have that linked down below for you guys as well. To attach the ears at first, you're just going to do a thin line of hot glue on the bottom of the ear and then firmly press it down on the headband. This is what it'll look like when it's done. And don't worry, any glue that's showing will get covered up. But we are going to reinforce them because that is not enough to attach the ear. So using some white satin ribbon, mine's just from Dollar Tree, I'm going to link that through the 3 holes on the bottom of the ear. So looping it through the first hole and then leaving myself plenty of slack, and then looping it through the second and then the third. And you do want to leave kind of like loops of ribbon underneath the headband, like allowing slack in the ribbon, because we're going to attach this in a minute and it's a lot easier if you do that as you're lacing it through. So it should look like this, and then you're going to cut off the excess. And to attach it, you're going to do a dot of hot glue on the bottom of the headband and firmly pull those ribbons tight down into that glue, and then tap the ribbon into the glue. So the ribbon itself is providing like a really good hold into that hot glue. So you'll do the same thing on the second loop, dot of hot glue, pull the ribbons tight and tap down the ribbon, and then you're going to cut off the excess tails just enough to where you can glue the folds underneath the headband as well. You can also use a lighter on this part to sear the edges of the ribbon. It'll prevent any fraying that could happen with satin ribbon. And then once the edges are burned, then you're going to glue the edges down under the headband. So I do want to show you guys a demonstration, because this ear is not going anywhere. That ribbon is not going to show once you have this headband on your head, and it's very, very secure. So you're going to do those same steps on the other side, and now you have your 2 ears attached, all sparkly and beautiful. I definitely think you could stop here if you're not a bow person, but if you are a bow person, I'm going to show you how to make a removable bow. So I just have these little dot magnets that are super strong, and I attached it with just some hot glue. I do want to cover it up, and also the hot glue is not enough to hold it over time. So you're going to need to do this not only to hide it, but to reinforce it. Just taking a little bit of satin ribbon, you're going to glue down one end of the satin ribbon, and then you're going to glue down the other end of the satin ribbon and pull it really tight. You don't want to put any glue on top of the headband where the magnet is, because you've already attached it and it's not going to help reinforce it anymore. And then the second magnet, you're going to put inside of your bow and glue that down. And now you have a magnet removable bow, and you can do any kind of bow you want, which for this particular set of ears, I think is really nice because they can be so neutral. For the final step, I'm going to be attaching those Mickey and Minnie buttons that I painted, and I'm just going to be putting them in the center of the bow. I did have to use just some regular scissors to cut off the back of the button because it kind of got in the way from the button laying flat on the bow. So again, just snipped it off, added some hot glue, and glued that down onto the bow. And that is the final step in making these little pearl Mickey ears, kind of Steamboat Willie inspired. I think they came out so pretty, and I definitely have more ideas for ears like this. I also want to ask you guys to go ahead and subscribe, ring that bell, and stay tuned, because if you do make these ears and order those acrylic discs, I have more tutorials coming on how to make ears with those acrylic discs. I'll also link down below a tutorial that I already have for those. So if you're interested, then check it out. Bye guys.